Hello, good evening, LGBTQ community. Woo! My name is Lady Rose, and I'm the event manager here at City Bookshop. I also co-host our queer book club, Queering the Narrative, and I'm also the staff emotional support lesbian. So y'all are in good hands tonight. I am so excited for this event, and I can't even begin to tell you. But it is not the only exciting thing that we have coming up during Pride Month. Please check out our events calendar because I could talk for ages about all the exciting things we have coming up. But I wanted to highlight a couple of ones that I'm particularly excited about for this specific crowd. June 17th, we are hosting Adriana Herrera for her sapphic historical romance, An Island Princess Starts a Scandal. And y'all, I have read it. It is steamy. It is sapphic. I was screeching the entire time. It's set in 1800s Paris and features a hot, rich duchess, a feisty young artist, and Paris's lesbian community. And it's probably going to be my favorite romance of the year, so you definitely want to be there for it. June 29th, we are hosting our Limelight series, where I will be moderating a panel of 3 authors who write queer stories across different genres and age ranges to discuss how they queer the narrative. Kasoko Jackson, Timothy Janowski, and Stephen Spotswood will be joining us, and tickets to that event are going to be a sliding scale donation to Smile, a local organization right around the corner from us that works to empower LGBT youth. So you definitely want to be there for that, and you definitely want to help out Smile. Some small housekeeping details. Number 1, bathrooms are upstairs past the cash register. Number 2, if you're watching from home and have any issues, please let us know in the chat. We're monitoring that to help if necessary. Number 3, we will have time for questions tonight for both in-person and virtual attendees. So even if you're watching via Zoom, you can participate. Please put those questions in the Q&A feature so we will see them and can ask on your behalf. If you need to purchase a copy of Moby Dyke, we have copies available and we'd be happy to help you out with that. All those copies are upstairs at the register and can be purchased prior to the signing line. And finally, in case you didn't hear, after the event, we are heading over to As You Are Bar for the after party. They're expecting us, so please come along and celebrate in this wonderful queer space. This book is so dear to me, and I pretty much cried the entire way through reading it, just overcome with the emotions of being drawn into queer communities across the country. I don't need to tell y'all that things feel a little scary out there right now, but I can tell you that reading this book brought me so much joy, peace, and relief, and really inspired me to seek out queer communities in my own life and to pull up a chair with other lesbians and talk about our experiences. In 1987, there were 206 lesbian bars in America. Today, only a couple dozen remain. How and why did this happen? What has been lost or possibly gained by such a decline? Krista Burton attempts to answer these questions firsthand, venturing on an epic cross-country journey to the last remaining Dyke bars. Our author of the evening is Krista Burton, who is the creator of the popular blog Effing Dykes and was a frequent contributor to the online magazine Rookie. Her writing has also appeared in the New York Times, The Guardian, Elle, and Vice. She lives in Minnesota. Joining her in conversation is Nellie Sires, who is a civic engagement professional with a powerful history of organizing, including leading the winning field efforts for marriage equality in Illinois in 2014. She's queer, an avid adventurer, and lives in Petworth with her partner and too many animals. Please welcome our folks of the evening.
My God, there's so many of you. Hello. I'm Krista.
I'm Nellie. This is a full house.
Yeah.
Hi, friend.
Hi, Nellie. Nellie and I have known each other for like more than a decade, and I like your outfit.
Thank you. I really like your outfit.
Oh, you like my little, it's slightly see-through.
I don't think I'm allowed to
On
answer that
purpose.
question. Hello. Welcome to DC.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you back.
Me too.
So like you said, we've known each other for more than a decade at this point. I think we met, when I was just a baby queer.
The first time I met Nellie was in this, like, I think it was velvet. It was skin tight. And it was like this prom dress. And like your boobs were just up to your chin. And I was just like, who is this?
This is a look that I do also still today, sometimes still frequent. So let's just speak clear about that. Great. And Krista, you were a lesbian, but you hated it. You made that face every time. Oh. And I started to read Effing Dykes, but you were dating one of my very good friends. And I was coming out of the closet and figuring that out. And I was like, oh my God, Krista is the coolest person in the entire world. And you were so, so sweet to me. And then you also would sometimes trip and fall down like a normal person, which made you far more approachable.
Suffering under compliments.
But you have introduced so many people to the world of lesbianism, to the world of being a dyke. And this book comes at a really interesting time in the world to be a queer and to be a dyke. Talk to me about how Moby Dyke actually came to be.
Okay. So in 2015, I think is when it kind of started for me. That's when the Lexington Club in San Francisco closed, and it felt like getting punched in the gut. That bar had meant a lot to me. And so I spent the next couple of years just bitching, just all the time, complaining about it, like talking to people I knew about how more and more bars were closing, how all these places that I loved were ending. And then in 2017, I kind of turned that into a New York Times article called "I Want My Lesbian Bars Back." And from that, I got an agent, and my agent and I tossed around this idea that we'd had where I go to all the lesbian bars in America and we see what I find, and it'll be fun. And then we canned it. We didn't do it. We spent the next couple of years doing other book projects, and those went nowhere. And then more and more media attention started happening surrounding all the bars closing. I'm sure you guys all saw the headlines that were like, there's only 26 lesbian bars left, and there's only 22. And they were everywhere. And I was pissed because I was like, oh, I missed my chance. We're never going to do this now. And then randomly, I got an editor I'd worked with at Simon & Schuster before, emailed my agent and said, hey, what about an idea I had? What if I pitched this idea to you? What if Krista goes to all the lesbian bars in America and writes about what she finds? And I was like,
he had the same idea.
Yeah, exactly the same idea. So I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that. Yes. So that's how it happened.
Editor, a cis man.
Yes. His name is Sean Manning, and he was fabulous. And I was a little nervous about it. He was fabulous.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. And of course he had your same idea. You talked a little bit just now about the Lexington being really, really important to you. You actually write about that in Moby Dyke. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yes, I have the page marked. No, it's not it. Oh, thanks, Nellie. Okay, here we go. The Lexington Club was the first real lesbian bar I ever set foot in. My first girlfriend, who I'd met while at college in Minneapolis, had moved to San Francisco for her job. I was 21, newly out, completely in love with her, and selling my eggs to pay for my tuition in life. Flush with cash from my own ovaries, I would visit her in San Francisco regularly, sometimes twice a month. We would go to the Lexington Club. The first time I walked in there, I couldn't believe it. I had been to gay bars before in Minneapolis, but this was different. A whole bar full of people like us, a whole bar full of people who probably also for sure liked women. On Friday and Saturday nights, the Lexington Club was always mobbed. There would be a large crowd of queers standing outside, smoking, making out against the walls in the dark, fishing their IDs out of their back pockets, fighting under the streetlight, either fully yelling or in that tense, whispery way that dykes in relationships fight when they're out with their friends. And one of them has just done something that needs to be talked about outside. You know, your basic talking, laughing, loving, breathing, fighting, fucking, crying, cheating situation going on. Inside the Lex, there wouldn't be space to move. The crush surrounding the bar was hopeless, 3 layers of people thick before you could even come anywhere near the bartenders, who were unfairly cute and tattooed and would take your drink order with the indifferent expressions of the chronically hot and hit on. A few years later, after my first girlfriend and I had broken up, I got a job taking the authors of educational books on week-long seminar tours. I'd get sent to San Francisco often. I'd regularly end up at the Lex at night after work, powerless against the magnetic force that pulled me toward older butches with strong jawlines, muscled arms, and a wary look in their eyes. If none were available to stare hopefully at, I'd just sit in the bar, happy to be there and envious of the other queers surrounding me. These gays live in San Francisco, I'd think, eyeing the shaved heads and piercings and complicated rag outfits of the dykes walking through the front door. They're not just tourists. They can come to the Lex whenever they want. Even then, circa 2008 through 2010-ish, San Francisco was so expensive that the only way most transplants could live in the city proper was to be either really rich or really broke, and thus okay with living in a shithole with 7 other queers. No one I saw coming into the Lex looked remotely wealthy, though, and since most queers are not wealthy in general, I knew the majority of the patrons had made a choice. They wanted to live in the gayest city in the world, full stop. They were willing to be uncomfortable, to pay shocking rent, to live in busted, code-violating, closet-sized rooms, just to be in the same vicinity as lots of other people like them. just to have the Lexington Club be their neighborhood bar, just to have access to a queer community right outside their door. Even then, I knew I was unwilling to make a choice like that, and so I envied their commitment to the homosexual lifestyle. I wanted a queer community, but I also wanted to remain unsure of what a bedbug looked like. The Lexington Club was a legend, one of the last of its kind, but not the very last.
So you got this book deal. Yeah. And you are then able to start to travel and start to see some of these bars. But how did you define what you were going to do? You very quickly identified rules for Moby Dyke. So what were the Moby Dyke rules?
Oh yeah, there were totally rules. I actually wrote them down because I always forget what they were. And yeah, okay. So I only visit bars that self-identified as lesbian bars or that currently identified as queer bars, but historically had always been lesbian bars. So that narrowed it down pretty good. Each bar would get 2 or more visits on different days. And that's because I wanted to make sure I visited when they were having at least one on night. Some of the bars got 4, 5, 6 visits. Some of the bars got one visit. And I was very mad, and it's in the book about why. And but almost all of them got 2 to 3 visits. The next rule was I would contact the owners and try to interview them. And if I couldn't get the owners, I would settle for someone who worked at the bar. And if I couldn't get someone who worked at the bar to talk to me, I would talk to a regular. And the last rule is the one that was really the hardest. And that was, I made a rule that I had to approach and speak to 2 strangers at every bar every time I went out.
You just defied all of the social norms of queerdom.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
I know.
So let's be clear. This was a labor of love and a sacrifice for us all to have this beautiful book. So speaking of not approaching strangers, the way that queers typically know each other is through their community. And there's a lot of through exes, friends. We know each other through exes. We're both friends with each other's exes. We rolled in the same big queer crew in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama in queer groups of friends, right? As that plays out. We've never been involved in any of that drama. Never us. I'm sure our friends in the audience are laughing at us right now. But in the book, you talk about that experience of witnessing the quintessential lesbian couples fighting in front of their friends. Will you read us that?
I will. I marked it and I'll find it. Oh, well, thanks, Nellie. God. Okay. All right. So this is at Slammers, which is in Columbus. Slammers, like the Back Door, and like so many lesbian bars not on the East Coast, was a really big bar. High, tin stamped ceilings, 2 expansive rooms, a massive patio outside with a gay flag painted on the concrete. At the end of the long, dark wooden bar, a cluster of young queers was standing up, jackets on, bunched around the bartender. They were leaving, and the bartender was clearly dating one of them. And there was some kind of quiet lesbian drama energy happening between the 2 as the friend group was closing out their tabs. You can always tell when 2 queers in a group are having drama because the ones having an issue will continue to speak intensely to one another, but just get quieter and quieter, all the while trying to pretend that everything's fine for the sake of the group, while also being acutely aware that all their friends are listening and know exactly what's going on, but only from their respective preferred friend's side of the issue. Is emotional intelligence a blessing or a curse? None of us know.
Throughout Moby Dyke, you introduce and use a lot of beautifully queer vocabulary. I actually recently realized that you are the reason that I have a particular piece of queer vocabulary in my lexicon.
What is it?
A Fruit Loop.
Oh,
a Fruit Loop. Can you tell us what a Fruit Loop is?
Yeah, everybody knows. Do you guys know what a Fruit Loop is? Oh, okay. You get to the gay bar and you do a Fruit Loop. You get your drink and you walk around and you
observe all the fruits.
It's a Fruit Loop. I genuinely thought this was standard. I don't know where I learned it. I don't know if I made it up.
I think you probably did.
Okay,
great. Claim it right here.
Fine. I did.
Claim it right here now. You had a couple of other really great ones in there. Can you also define for us a dyke-alike?
Yes. A dyke-alike is 2 people in a couple who look the same. And if they don't actually look the same, when you look at their faces, there's something about them that is the same. And you're like, I struggle to tell you apart. And it's like it's a thing sometimes.
What about a pin gay? I think I went through a phase as a pin gay, maybe.
I think I remember that. And a pin gay is I love pin gays. A pin gay is someone who has spent an enormous amount of money at queer craft sales or the counter next to the lesbian or feminist like sex toy store, the pins, the enamel pins. You know what I'm talking about? They're like two little things scissoring, or there's like a possum that has like and holding a gay flag and it says like gay trash.
The magic wand. I've seen the magic wand ones.
Yes. Okay. So that's a pin gay, and pin gays don't stop at one. There are so many. If you get one, it's contagious. It's a sickness, but a good one. Like if you get one, you are going to have 20. And either you rotate them out or you wear them all at once. Yeah.
What about a sporty?
Oh, a sporty. That's easy. A sporty is some kind of queer that either played really intense amounts of sports in high school and through college, or just currently is in that lifestyle now, like rugby, softball, and like frequently sporties date other sporties, and not always, but they roll in packs, and that's because team sports. This is yeah.
Very sense. Krista, what is an LHB?
Nellie, I'm sorry. What's it? Okay, an LHB is a long-haired butch, and why are you asking me that question?
It was on my list. Okay.
Yeah.
On my list. So not only do lesbians have their own lexicon, not only do dykes have our own whole set of vocabulary, it also seems that we, the queers, the gays, the dykes, we also have our own concept of space-time, apparently, as well. Yes. Can you talk to us about that? You have a whole beautiful passage on defining gay time and what that is.
Yeah, gay time. I'll talk about it. Talk about it all you want. So I'm sure you've all experienced this. We don't experience time like everyone else. So in here it says, now, if you're not familiar with gay time, the rules are as follows. A house party that starts anytime after 8, just come on over. The party actually gets going after 10, so best to go at 11 when everyone will be drunk enough to be loose and fun and sober enough to remember you came. A dinner scheduled for 7 p.m. at someone's house. Dinner is actually at 9:30 because when you arrive at 7:15, there are drinks and gluten-free certified tortilla chips and hummus all still in their store containers, set out on the kitchen counter, but the host hasn't even started cooking yet. They're slowly cutting a single cucumber into tiny pieces while avidly listening to the 7 other queers standing up in their kitchen, gossiping about what Aiden did this time. A dinner is scheduled for 7 p.m. at a restaurant. Dinner is at 7. But they won't seat us because they won't seat incomplete parties. And Eli still isn't here. And everyone's texting them at once. And Eli has stopped responding, but did text on my way 22 minutes ago. The Pride Parade starts at 10 a.m. Good luck. This is not happening. The parade will begin moving at 11:30 under a meltingly hot sun, hungover drag queens struggling valiantly, and it will then be halted for 2 hours by an anti-police protest. Sunburned children with rainbow face paint will begin crying at 10:03 a.m. Any other Pride event that starts at any time during the day, no one is coming to a daytime Pride event except for the people who organized it and the P-Flag families. A prearranged 11 a.m. weekend brunch with friends. 56 text messages in the group chat later. Brunch is at 1:30 and at a completely different location. There's a 45-minute wait. Everyone's hungover, and holy shit, someone brought Caitlin.
We definitely missed our reservation. It's true. So I feel like this concept of gay time and just being in sort of a different universe also has a little bit to do with what you talked about, how queers age. I do have a bone to pick with you.
Okay, I'm ready.
You keep talking about being middle-aged in this book. We are only a few years apart.
I am 40. I am middle-aged. I am the definition of middle-aged. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would please like you to tell me what you think. Why do queers age differently?
I don't know. I think it's a really good question. I'm not sure. Have you guys noticed this, that queers look younger than everyone else? but like forever.
Always.
Is it the stress of heterosexuality just like bearing down on you? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I have noticed it. Like I talked to someone for these bar trips who swore to me that they had only slugged their face with Vaseline and that's the only product they had ever used their entire life. And I was just, she was 64. And I can't explain what it is, but it is true.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. And yes, the stress of heterosexuality must be very oppressive, but I've blocked it out from before my age of 25. So obviously, as you're mentioning, it is sometimes very hard to tell the age of queers. And then also sometimes it's hard to read that somebody is queer.
Definitely.
I feel like my gaydar has gotten better as I'm older. And I also recognize that it is especially hard to be read as queer or to read queers, especially for queer femmes.
Oh, what's up?
In particular.
Yeah.
But you had the joy of catching the rarest of sightings out at a particular bar. Can you go to page 139?
Are you talking about the femme for femme?
I'm talking about the femme for femme sighting. You have to do it.
Yeah. What? Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is at the Lipstick Lounge in Nashville. It was late and the Lipstick Lounge crowd was sloppy and in a good mood. Davin and I got drinks and inched our way closer to the karaoke stage, where a hot queer with a sharp Grace Jones haircut was yelling the words to Alanis Morissette's Ironic, while gay boys in pastel t-shirts waved their arms and called, "Yes!" with their drinks in the air. In front of us, a blonde femme in a cream-colored cable knit sweater turned to face their blonde, ponytailed femme partner, also in a chunky knit. And they started seriously making out. I mean, hands were up sweaters. Imagine Martha Stewart in her 20s in a softcore filmed in Nantucket. That's what it looked like. So many fluffy natural fibers. I couldn't help it. I stared. They looked like they were totally alone in the room, but the bar was so crowded that anyone passing behind them made their ponytails swing. Watching them, I nudged Davin, delighted. "I know," he murmured, his lips hardly moving, carefully looking above their heads. "Femme for femme." "You're being obvious," he hissed, bugging his eyes at me. I couldn't help it. Seeing a femme couple out in the wild is such a rare occurrence. You get to make a wish when it happens. I closed my eyes and wished for more femme couples to bless us all. On stage, the opening notes to Radiohead's Creep twanged. I groaned. A soft butch clutched the mic, nodding and tapping their thigh, eyes screwed shut, already overcome with emotion. There is always a soft butch singing Creep and feeling it way too much at karaoke. I focused on the heavy makeout still happening in front of me. Those sweaters. Did they meet at a queer knitting group, I wondered? Do they incorporate yarn into their shibari practice?
So at this point, Krista, you're basically a lesbian bar expert.
Sure.
I mean, you've been, and I think a couple times you referenced how Davin, your husband, an amazing friend, trans man, wants to open a lesbian bar as long as there's a volleyball court available. But I'm curious, now that you have done this amazing adventure, what does your ideal lesbian bar look like?
I love this question. You wouldn't believe how many hours I have spent thinking about this question. Davin and I have really narrowed it down. He wants to call it gay bar for faggots. I think maybe something cute like the maraschino. But no one can spell that, so I know it's a bad idea, just starting off. And then we decided together that what we want to do is, so we both live in Northfield, Minnesota, which is a very small town, 40 minutes south of the Twin Cities in rural Minnesota, okay? And it's on a river, and what we want to do is we want to take over this abandoned building that's sitting on the river, and we want to, it has hotel rooms up on the top of it. This building is abandoned. We are mad. And we want to turn it into a gay bar that has a patio that goes out over the river. And because there's no lesbian bar within like 330 miles of where we live, what if Northfield became the province town of the Midwest? What if it was a gay destination? What if someone bought the building next door and it was gay boys? And we had, what if we all bought a pontoon together? What if there was like a B&B upstairs and I got to bake muffins? And then, you know, that's what I want to do. So Let me know if you want to come. Okay.
Already got a crowd. You did not mention anything about musical selections in any of your lesbian bar ideal descriptions. But I do know that you noticed a theme.
Oh yeah.
A theme.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk to us about that theme?
I can. Yeah. I can. Oh, yes, I can. Okay, I started noticing this around bar 5. This is probably at this point bar 16. And I'm at Sue Ellen's in Dallas. Yes. Okay. I had never seen anything like this. I settled in at a spot along the second floor railing, looking down at the dancing below. The DJ was working hard, playing mostly songs I didn't know, all with heavy beats. Everyone dancing seemed to know the songs though, and I assumed that was because almost everyone dancing looked to be under 25 years old. If I'm being honest, unrecognizable songs were a nice change from the early aughts jams that most lesbian bars specialize in. Like, I adore J-Lo's Love Don't Cost a Thing and Britney's Oops, I Did It Again as much as anyone else. But there are queers alive and dancing legally in dyke bars today who weren't born yet when these songs were #1 on the charts. At Sue Ellen's, if I did know a song, it was because a clip of it had been popular lately on TikTok, which I usually only watch via Instagram, days, weeks after they've gone viral. I'm sorry, your mother is trying, but she can't keep up.
So Northfield's spot will not only play early 2000s jams.
No.
Got it.
Only viral TikTok hits.
I love it. Okay, so I thought it would be fun, now that you've seen all of these different lesbian bars, to do a little game of superlatives. Do y'all remember like superlatives from your book, what that is? Okay.
Ooh.
So I've picked some out for you.
Okay.
I need you to tell me what bar fits this category.
Okay.
Sluttiest dance floor.
Oh. I saw some shit go down. I want to say possibly, I want to say boycott bar. That it was very it was a good night. Also Sue Ellen's, which I just talked about, had a lot of things happening. Yeah.
Things.
Can I tell you something that I saw at Sue Ellen's?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, this wasn't necessarily on the dance floor. Sue Ellen's has this huge bar, and it's this enormous Studio 54 lesbian club. Okay, and I was on the second floor looking down, and I saw at the bar that overlooks the dance floor, I saw this young queer person like kind of eyeball a cutie that came and sat down next to them. I saw them like look and then look again, and then I saw them take their beer bottle, make direct eye contact at that person, and then slowly like lick up the neck of the bottle, like slow
Bold
motion, full eye contact. And I'm upstairs going, holy fuck. Yeah, and it worked. That person started talking to the other person.
Of course it worked. That would have worked on me too. Can you imagine? Okay, great. Slutty dance floor, Sue Ellen's. Awesome. Most Instagrammable.
Ooh, easy. That's Pearl Bar in Houston.
Okay.
Their porch is built for Instagramming. It is tons of custom neon signs. They all say something dirty like "I licked it, so it's mine," and like everything is built so you can take photos. It's extremely Instagrammable.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Where has the hottest bartenders?
Oh, this is hard. A lot of them have really nice bartenders.
Slow pause.
I want to say two come to mind. Blush and Blue in Denver had every person at the bar was just an 11, a 12. And also, it's not technically a lesbian bar, but it is a queer bar, and I talk about it in the epilogue. Nobody's Darling had sweat inducing.
Chicago, y'all.
Yeah, bartenders.
Where had the best swag? You got swag at a lot of places throughout this trip.
I did.
Many trips, I should say.
I want to say Walker's Pint, because they had this really cute 80s looking fanny pack that I ended up wearing through to half the bars. Like, I was so happy with it.
it's fashionable, it's functional.
Yeah,
it's
they had
all.
tons of different options. They had different sizes.
Love it.
All of them were in stock. This never happens at lesbian bars. So yeah,
Pay attention, future lesbian bar owners, stock your fanny packs.
merch.
Oh, this is maybe a tough one.
Okay.
What is the most DTR friendly bar? The define the relationship talk, right? Like you gotta, it's at that time, it's time to actually sit down and have that conversation. Where's good to do that?
Oof. Oh, I would say, you know what? I would do that. I would do that at the Wild Rose in Seattle. Like very moody lighting in there. You're in Seattle. It's kind of slouchy and misty. And you could be like, what are we? So, yeah. Wild Rose.
Clear exits in case it doesn't go
Yeah.
well. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Maybe the most important question.
Okay.
Of superlative on this list. Most fuckable bathroom.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I have two immediate answers. Sue Ellen's in Dallas again, because their bathrooms are huge. I've never seen bathrooms this big in my life. There could be 5 people having sex in different stalls and you would still be able to get in and pee in under a minute. There are so many bathrooms. It's wild. However, if you're nasty, I would say cubbyhole. Those bathrooms are very, very tiny and you would need to be doing a lot of maneuvering. So, and I think it'd be really fun. And plus there's the added like pressure fun of people pounding on the door because there's only 2 bathrooms at cubbyhole.
So like one is the efficiency of it all. The other is the voyeurism of it all.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Love it. Okay. You've given us our superlatives and we have this beautiful audience that I think would maybe like to ask some questions. Would you all like to
If not, it's okay.
Would you all like to ask some questions?
Nellie and I can go all day.
We can. Great. Yeah.
Hi.
So I'm bi,
Mhm.
and a lot of spaces are exclusively like gay men or gay women
Mhm.
that like one or the other really. Did you ever find like a queer or just like I'm bi, I'm pan, I'm not exclusively into like women or non-men
Mhm.
space?
I'm going to repeat it for our friends
perfect.
on Zoom.
Organized.
So the question is, were there spaces that were not exclusively for gay women, gay men, but for bi folks, queer folks, pan folks?
Totally. Some of the bars that I visited were very blatantly queer bars that were run by lesbians or used to be lesbian bars. And so like Gossip Grill in San Diego is doing a fantastic job with being like, what's up? Everybody come in. You are so welcome here. Except for like, it's not a get out, but it's like hey, there's also a gay guy bar next door if you want that, but we're for everybody else. And so a lot of bars are like that now. And I think it's super welcoming and really lovely to do. Does that answer that? Okay.
Also, as you are, where we're going.
Oh my God.
after
As you
this.
are.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
BC shout out.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Other questions, y'all? Yeah, please.
So it seems like you have I had the chance to read the book already. It seems like you had a really great experience at every bar that you went to. Did you feel pressure in writing the book, like past every bar in life? Is there a bar you don't tell the name that you secretly did not like?
Can I repeat it again?
That's a spicy question.
So the question is, was there pressure to cast every single bar in a positive light? And does Krista secretly hold a bar that she does not love? But you don't have to identify it,
Okay.
but maybe you can talk about it. I think that was how that was phrased. It's very, very inclusive of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think when I first started, so the issue is this. It wasn't like I wanted to honestly review the bars and explain like what I was doing, but I'm also a huge stan for these bars and I want people to go to them. And so I don't want to be like, I had a fucking shitty night. But I think I did write honestly about you'll find if you read the book that I do have some shitty nights and I do talk about it. And usually I have shitty nights because of me. A couple times I had a shitty night because of something that happened at the bar, but anytime that happens, it goes in the book. And at first I felt really worried that like I didn't want to say anything bad about the bars, but everything happened pretty naturally. I did end up having an amazing time at almost all of them. And when I didn't, it's basically my journal. You get to hear about it.
Please.
Mhm.
Diverse I think where did that like combination of them more perspective. But something that I noticed and I was hoping to ask you about here was when it came to talking about modernization of specifically gay bars for like many of men. There wasn't a whole lot of positive talk around the issues of like the culture changing. For example, like I was wondering if there was anything that you had noticed in like the shift in cultures in lesbian or women's spaces or anything else similar that.
Sure. Do you want to repeat it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm gonna do my best. So the question is, if there was anything that Krista noticed in lesbian spaces about shifting culture, especially around things like consent, and the contrast was to the book Gay Bar that wasn't able to identify that there was much of that shift, and there wasn't a lot of conversation about it. So Krista, what was your experience with that?
I actually experienced quite a bit of a change in like the lesbian and queer bars that I was going to. Especially, I mean, we're going to As You Are. They have been doing a tremendous job, like very clearly stating the rules of the place, posting them, making sure that people feel safe before that they actually start to have fun in the space. Like safety is first. And I've seen that in a couple other bars too, where the security guard, when you go in, will not just check your ID, but will also like say something like, hey, as you're going in tonight, if you have any problems, please come directly to me if you feel unsafe. And I've been loving that. That also happened in at the back door in Bloomington and at Gossip Girl. At Gossip Girl, they have their security people have shirts that say playground monitor, and they walk around making sure that everything's fine all the time. And it's really, and they're very friendly, and they're there to make sure that the vibes are good. So I've been seeing a huge uptick in that actually.
Yeah, and I remember you talked in the book also about like drag performers starting out their sets, like naming that consent is mandatory very clearly.
Mhm.
So it seems to be this common theme that you're identifying.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch performances happen where instead, I feel like even 5 years ago, it was pretty weird to have the MC say something like, hey, everybody, like you cannot touch a performer just like openly like that. But I kept seeing drag performances where that was the case, where the MC would come out and state the rules right away. Like consent is mandatory, no touching unless they touch you. And then they openly say you can touch them. Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome.
I think we're doing a better job. We have a lot of ways to go, but
yeah.
Please.
So some places in the country are not as fortunate enough to have women and sapphic focused spaces.
Mhm.
What after being to all of these spaces, what recommendations would you give to gay bar owners to make those spaces more inclusive and more, I guess, comfortable for non-cis gay men to go to?
I love this question. So the question is, what advice would Krista offer to gay bar owners, specifically spaces for cis gay men, to actually make them more welcoming to women who love women, sapphic, make it more sapphic focused? What does that look like to make that more welcoming and inclusive?
I don't know. Maybe you could like let someone who's not a cis man buy a drink ever. There's a thought.
Step one.
Step one. Yeah. You could have much more. You could have bodyguards, security guards who are trained in like de-escalation. You could have,
and will eliminate scum.
Yes. I can't remember the definition of scum in the book. Crap. It's in the book.
Yeah, it is in the book.
It's okay. We'll keep going. But I think gay bars could take incredibly simple steps to be more inclusive and get a lot more business. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, why are queer and lesbian bars solely in charge of being inclusive? Why aren't gay bars being asked to do this work as well? I don't get it.
Misogyny.
I mean,
yes. Yeah.
I've been following you 2010.
oh damn.
And I sent you an email in 2012.
You
And
did?
I just wonder why you never responded.
No, that's a good question. No, we don't make the hoodies anymore. I am so sorry. And I do want to say that I did read all of them. And at the time when the blog was doing well, no, I feel bad. I feel bad about this. When the blog was getting more popular and I had no concept of who was reading it and like, or the numbers or anything, I was getting a lot of emails and, I eventually was like, I can't answer these. That's all. And I'm so sorry. You want to come talk to me about your 2012 problem later? Let's talk about it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, good. Okay. We'll talk later. Yeah.
Let me repeat.
Yes, we can repeat that question, then we do have some.
Okay. Let's actually go to the virtual ones. Yeah.
Will you quickly repeat what that?
Yes, sorry.
Oh.
So the question was from an audience member who had been reading Effing Dykes and following Krista since 2010. And this audience member sent Krista an email in 2012. And this audience member wants to know why Krista didn't respond.
It's valid.
Our first virtual question is, I'd love to know more about the editing process. Did your editor get all of your in-community lesbian jokes?
Oh, do you need to repeat that or is it?
If you could repeat it, that'd be great.
So the question is, did the editor get all of the in community for the family lesbian jokes?
No. Sean he is the best editor I've ever worked with in my entire life. Hands down. And I've worked with a lot of editors. I loved working with Sean. And a lot of the things that I talked about, he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And I actually ended up loving that because I wanted the book to feel as inclusive as possible to people who were maybe just starting out on their queer journey. And like having to explain really what feels to me incredibly basic terms to someone who's brand new was actually really helpful. And so I was glad that he didn't know. Sometimes it was annoying though. Like he didn't know the song Goodbye Earl. Do you know the song? He didn't know it. He'd never heard it in his life. I was like, I'm exhausted, Sean.
Doing the Lord's work out here, explaining it right. What's our next?
Do you see any promising signs that more lesbian bars will open in the future?
Are there promising signs that more lesbian bars will open in the future?
Oh, fuck yes. Okay. So I knew when I started writing this, when I wrote it, there were only 20 lesbian bars. That was it. That was all that were left. And I knew that the second it went to print, it would be out of date, basically, because the day after, for instance, I turned in the final version. Like I got a notification that a lesbian bar had opened in Los Angeles. I was like, cool. Cool. And so that was happening a lot. People were sending me DMs all the time, like, hey, did you hear about Doc Marie's? Hey, did you hear about Dorothy's? And I was just like, yes, I know.
We're both still mad about Nobody's Darling. Nobody's Darling opened in Chicago. We both moved out of Chicago.
I lived
at that point.
Okay, this bar is incredible. Nobody's Darling is Black owned. It is lesbian owned. It is a queer bar. It is
Cocktails.
very
Cocktail bar,
sexy.
y'all.
They are James Beard nominated for their cocktails, which are cheap for Chicago. Everything in there is $13 or less. It's an amazing bar. It is 4 blocks from where I lived for 4 years in Chicago. And I am furious. That's all.
Yeah. Next question from online.
We can do more from the audience too. We have one more virtual question.
Great.
Which is, you mentioned volleyball at lesbian bars being a goal for your future bar. Did you visit/use the volleyball court at Dave's Greytown in Richmond?
Yes, we did. We did not use it. We watched a Sunday game happening between a lot of queers. And I've never seen queers play beach volleyball, and it was incredible. Imagine everyone in tiny short shorts shrieking as the ball just like whizzes past. It was phenomenal. And yes, I would love to have that at my own bar.
I also don't know if I would have played volleyball after hearing the description of it at night becoming the litter box.
Listen, I don't know if that's true or not. It is simply something that someone told me at the bar.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, please.
So I'm from Midwest also.
Oh, hi.
In a big like no gay bars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But so I just recently moved here. So and I don't know anybody here that's like super gay.
Everyone turns to look at you. Oh my God. I love this.
So the question is, how would you suggest engaging more actively in the queer community as a single young woman queer out in the world, going by yourself in that spaces, also like leaving bars, keeping safe, and I think meeting friends seems to be a big objective here. Yeah.
Let me clarify. Are you more interested in how to meet people here or how to stay safe? Uh-huh. Okay, well, that is funny because that's what this book is about. I'm also an extroverted introvert, and I hate approaching strangers. It is very difficult for me. Not anymore. This book cured the fuck out of me. You want to talk? I'm ready. For me, it was exposure therapy, basically just approaching people over and over and over again to get to the point where I was fine. But I would say that my friend Stephanie King in 2014 gave me some really good advice. And that advice is, with lesbians, the best opening line, either for friends or just someone you're hitting on, is hi. Just do it. Everyone else is waiting for you to approach. None of us do it. If you do it, sometimes people will be weird, but most of the time they will be thrilled. So I would say try to approach.
And as a DC queer, hi works great. It works great here. It really does. Please.
That story you heard from a patron that you were from the refrigerator. And
Oh, I love that.
Okay, it's a two-parter.
Okay.
One is, what is the single best story that Krista heard from a stranger and a patron that she approached? And then the second relates to Kristen Devin's future lesbian bar endeavors. And the suggestion is maraschino for faggots.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so yeah, I think that's a great name. Maraschino for faggots.
Is it faggots? Faggots?
Oh, it could be faggots.
We're workshopping.
Yeah. It's good. It's very good. And I'm trying to think of the craziest story that a patron tells. I can tell you the craziest story that one of the owners told me. Yeah. Okay. Happened at the cubbyhole. The owner tells me that during Pride one year, this couple is breaking up. And it's the middle of Pride. It's like a very hot night. And the breakup is going really badly and really loudly. And everybody at the bar knows what's happening. And this bar is tiny. It's packed. There's maybe 75 people in this bar. And everyone is like, oh my God. And at one point, one of the lesbians in the couple blew up and then slammed her way into the bathroom and slammed the door. And it was quiet for a minute. And the whole bar, there was this hush. And then they heard a crazy noise. And it was nobody knew what this noise was. And the door flew open, and this lesbian had, in her rage, pried the toilet up off of its cement floor, lifted it off its hinges, and it flooded the bar during Pride. And the owner thinks that it was due to the rage of the breakup giving her fueled it up, because she and one of the people who was working there went into the other bar and physically tried to get the toilet up off the floor. Two people couldn't do it.
The Hulk of heartbreak,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yes. Yeah. Ooh, incredible.
The first one is sending love from another queer femme person and their trans masc partner, asking for some just reflections of queer joy about your experience on this journey as a queer femme person with a trans man husband.
Asking for reflections of queer joy of Krista's experience as a queer femme with a trans man husband.
Reflections of queer joy. I'm okay. I feel like a lot of the book is me just yelling about how much I love queers. And I was really nervous when I started this book that because, okay, so Davin went with me for half the bars and the other half I went by myself, and I wanted to see how I got treated with him and without him. And I was very nervous when we started that no one would talk to me, that everyone would be like, okay. Like, because together sometimes we get assumed to be straight, we get assumed to be a couple that's looking for a third, and we're both like, no, we've been gay for so long, please see us, like, you know. But I actually found that that didn't really happen, and it was really lovely to watch new people experience Davin because he's incredibly lovely. And it also reminded me that no one is thinking about how you are in a space as much as you are thinking of how you are in a space. And it didn't matter. What was the issue was me and my own hangups about being perceived as straight. Nobody cares. Like, you're at the bar, you're there to have a good time, and people are going to think what they want, and you can't do anything about it. And that is okay, because the second you start talking with someone, you immediately out yourself, and they're like, oh, okay, and it's over. So it's been really lovely.
I will also observe, as Krista and Davin's friend, that they are just like the queerest, hottest, best power couple. Krista, obviously here, and Davin works in the Minnesota legislature that just made Minnesota a sanctuary state for trans kids, like huge, massive work.
Wear the suit every day.
These two folks combined, just doing great things for queers.
And then the last question that I have from our virtual audience, how did you take care of yourself emotionally while working on this book? And did you find it draining or more healing?
Ooh. How did Krista take care of herself emotionally while working on the book?
Okay. Well, there was like the good side, which was like, I was having an amazing time. This was the most fun year of my life. I've never had so much fun in my life. And there was also the really tiring side where, you know, you've been maybe on a road trip for 8 days and you've been to each bar twice. So that's 16 bar visits. And then it's night 17 and you have to go to a lesbian bar again and talk to strangers. And you're like, okay, you know? And so it was both really, really exhausting and really, really healing at the same time, because I got to constantly be like surrounded. I was about to say drenched.
Also accurate.
I was surrounded by like incredible queer energy all of the time. And it was such a nice change from the pandemic when there was like nothing ever, crickets. And also it was so nice from living in a rural area to suddenly just have people like almost pressed up against you. And that was incredible. And also, I was also waking up in the middle of the night, sweating basically and freaking out because I had a deadline and I wasn't anywhere close to finishing. So yeah, I both did and did not care for myself. Actually, Davin cared for me a lot. He was the one like quietly coming in and handing me plates of food and leaving the room. So
I think we have time for one more from the audience and then we'll wrap.
Excellent.
Please.
Thank you so much for giving us a definition of all of these queer terms.
sure.
I have a couple questions related to that.
Yeah.
It's one question, but anyway. First of all, Dyke sounds a lot like my term doppelbanger.
I love that. Yes, that's the other one. I love that. Yeah.
So, wondering if you've noticed a difference in regional like lesbian lexicons. And also, now that you're in your 40s and you've been a dyke for a very long time,
Mhm.
what are some of your favorite new like terminology that the younger queers are bringing onto the scene?
Great. So this question is, does Krista notice differences in Dyke lexicon region to region? And now that Krista is not middle-aged, but in her 40s.
I am strongly middle-aged. What's up?
Does she have any new terms that she particularly enjoys?
Okay, I love this question. Also, I need to tell you that I'm pretty bad at like thinking of things like that on the fly. Do you have any examples of?
Sure. There is now I have something on blank as well. I'm
See?
thinking of like Alphabet Mafia or not Alphabet Mafia. What is it? Rainbow Mafia?
Oh, yeah,
Rainbow
yeah.
Mafia, for example.
I mean, I like it. I think it is.
Does anyone else have others that I'm not thinking of? Is that on this phone?
Oh, Gabies.
Gabies.
Yes, I mean, it's so easy. Butch, yeah.
Butch.
Yeah, that's tricky because stud has always historically been like a Black term in queer land. And seeing people identify as studs who are white is kind of problematic. Yeah. But
I think Doppelbanger and Dyke are an excellent example
Yeah.
of like these two pieces.
yeah, Futch has been around for a long time. I think Gaby's is fairly new, but it's perfect. We used to just say Baby Dyke, but like Gaby's is way better because it's more inclusive and it's faster. Yeah. So I love them. Yeah. And I didn't really notice any, I think because we're all so aggressively on the internet, I think that the lexicon is pretty shared. Yeah. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
The power of the interwebs. Y'all, thank you so much for your amazing questions and engagement. I do think that is all the time that we have. And I want to turn it back to our folks at City Bookshop. But Krista, thank you.
Nellie, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh my God. Thank you. And thank you, East City Books. This has been so cool.
Okay. And here I am. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. This was so emotionally fulfilling for me. And I know that our staff have been just buzzing about this for weeks. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Another round of applause for this. If you all would give us just a moment to get our signing table set up, we will get that ready and rolling. If you're willing and able to set your chairs to the side, a staff member is going to come